Danganronpa is a visual novel murder mystery game. Well, most of the time. The main gist, however, is that you're one of 15, or 16, students in your location of choice, told to murder each other and get away with said murder. You, the protagonist, take up the role of one of the main investigators of your classmates' murders. Heading into a trial room, formerly called the class trial, you then spend time trying to figure out which one of you had killed a character you may or may not have enjoyed. Once caught, the killer is executed, killed off for not getting away with murder. The series has been dead for a while, besides a couple of re-releases of their mainline games, and the most recent entry in the Danganronpa series was Danganronpa V3. And, if you want to be technical, the most recent entry to include an updated story and content or gameplay was Danganronpa S, Ultimate Summer Camp. Because of this, those who are fans of the series took an alternate means to satisfy their cravings. Some created their own fan games or fan series based on the works of Danganronpa. Some of these examples include Danganronpa Another 1 and 2, Project Eden's Garden, Danganronpa croxx, Danganronpa Despair Time, Danganronpa Rebirth, and several other notable names that come to mind. While these projects do fill that niche, giving us more characters to enjoy, more murders to solve, and so on and so forth, they are, however, limited by the fact that it's up to the creators respectively to publish content. All of these are not released as one big package, instead having each chapter of the game dropped one by one, with long breaks in between each part. As of right now, amongst this current list, the only well-known project currently to complete this is Danganronpa Another and its sequel, while others, such as Danganronpa Rebirth or croxx, go unfinished due to a multitude of reasons. A second alternative, however, was creating a way to play Danganronpa through other means. The most common way to do this, as of now, is roleplays. In most situations, you take a Danganronpa character and roleplay as them. Sometimes people create their own character, give them their ultimate talent, and write about them. While these could be as simple as a pure text-based written story by a group of individuals, there are alternatives in the form of Danganronpa games. By Googling Danganronpa online, you can find one such alternative. Similar to Ace Attorney Online, you're able to pick one of the characters in Danganronpa, or possibly create your own, or use a character from another franchise, and create your own visual novel. This could be seen as a sort of upgraded format of the text-based roleplays. While you're still pretending to be a character, solving mysteries, or enjoying characters made up by other players, this has the element of a more visual flair, with the obvious downside being that your cast of characters is more limited than your imagination, unless you have the skills to create new ones, and that, depending on the player, this still isn't playing Danganronpa. There is, however, a natural evolution to Danganronpa Online. While it still retains its role-playing aspect, it becomes even closer to the actual game. It's even in 3D. That evolution, of course, was Roblox. It's still popular today. As with Roblox, you're allowed to create your own character, experience a map to walk around in, and so on and so forth. With the obvious limitation to this, however, is that you're playing Roblox, where you can get censored for half the things you say, be surrounded by literal children, and, above all, the art style. While it is possible to immerse yourself, depending on how much effort you put in, it is not wrong to say that you could want something different. All previous mentions of this game include one primary trait. All of them are heavily story-based. What I mean by this is that the murders in all these are also written by the players themselves. And while this could lead to some genuinely interesting mysteries, it also struggles in one aspect. It's fiction. Ultimate fiction. I gave space so you can delete that part. It may be hard to immerse yourself in a murder when you find out some small, frail person lifted somebody that is 3 times their weight and exploded them with a taser. Additionally, when someone murders another, it's one-sided. One person writes about how they killed someone, the other has to accept the fact that they're dead. While the murderer can say there was a struggle, you, the victim, can never fight back. In short, the biggest flaw with playing these is that it could eventually turn into a popularity contest, where players kill people they dislike, ending the game with only those nobody wanted to kill. in a story where tragedy is rampant, and good cases and characters are its backbone. Such things could be more than likely be seen as detracting. However, there is one more version of Danganronpa, fan-made at least, that focuses more on Danganronpa as a game. While the original version of this can be still heavily story-written, we're going to be talking about the Danganronpa game mode. In essence, what if you could control a character, but pick up your own weapons, kill other players with said weapons, or possibly die trying? Or probably more broadly, you can solve said real-esque murders. Using actual logic, alibis, and eyewitness accounts, your own knowledge of the game, your knowledge on other players and what they would do, so on and so forth. That game is... Now, before you get too excited, it's important to lay down some ground rules. This game has existed for years. It's hard to pinpoint when it started, but it's popular in many regions. Europe, Asia, the Americas, and that's all the writers could think of off the top of their heads. It's a game that's existed for ages, and you, someone starting out, will probably feel outclassed. Don't worry about it. You can't solve a mystery without understanding the game itself. There's going to be a lot of cases where you feel left in the dark about something, while everyone else has a keen understanding about it. Blood splatters, alibis, times of death, accomplices, prop physics, weapon types and their damage values, grouping, learning the map itself, how to block, how to clip through the map, etc., etc. Even if you didn't have a keen understanding of every game mechanic, it's not uncommon to be confused in a trial. And, if the killer is especially smart, it's not wrong to be misled. Along with this, sessions can be long, especially for the uninitiated. If you were to look at footage of a formal session, the lengths can be as short as 3 hours, or in some cases up to 4, 5, even 6. Voice actor note, I've seen one up to 12 hours long. It's not even funny. It's very scary. Casuals, which are basically the simplest form of the game, can last upwards of an hour to an hour and a half per round, usually lasting 2 rounds total. Unless the host is feeling lazy and only hosts 1 round. That's a lot to say. These games are long and take time to play out fully. They're sessions, and you can't exactly have a quick round if you're in something like a competitive game. With that out of the way, let's get to step 1, downloading the game. To play this, first realize that this is just one really weird game mode in Garry's mod. It's a sandbox roleplay. Therefore, the first step is to legally purchase Garry's mod on Steam. You can't crack the game and join the server. We literally don't know how to allow that. That's it. I don't know how else to make this any simpler. Buy the game, you play the game. You might even get lucky and get it on sale. Once you have the game installed, you should be able to play. Now it's time for step 2. Actually finding someone who hosts this game. To play the game, you'll need a Discord account. It's how these frauds tell people, we're opening a server for early joining, and all that nonsense. Since you can't really just join a Danganronpa GMod server out of the blue, though we can't tell you which one to join specifically, because this guide is just so kind and humble, it can offer the server we're currently in. I'm pointing down there. Can you see that I'm pointing? I'm pointing downwards. Go to the description if you'd like to look. I'm giving you one last chance. Here, the server will probably tell you everything you want to know, like when something's being hosted, or what mods to install, usually contained in something called a content pack. This is just an easy way to group all the mods together. Just pressing subscribe to all is all you need to do to get everything on your computer. Yes, this game is heavily modded. Yes, there's a lot of them. The models that you use to play the game, the maps, the weapons, the mechanics and systems, everything and anything. It depends on which server you're on too. But if you want a general estimate of how big this game is, with both Gmod and mods combined, I'd say the minimum is about 20 to 25 gigabytes, which is a lot. Trust the process. At most, it might take you a few hours to download everything. Though, that all depends on your system too. The game is playable on lower-end computers, though you will experience lag and may have laggy situations due to your network as well. However, we're talking about really, really low-end laptops. Possibly even a laptop found in the dumpster, belonging to a guy named Sean, spelled S-H-O-N, low-end. You should be fine if you're confident your computer can open 30 tabs of Chrome without it exploding. Bayo side note here, did you know you can check to see if your specs are up to snuff by checking the Garry's Mod store page? Go to the bottom of the page and it will list out the specs of certain computers. If you have the Steam app downloaded, which you already should, it will tell you your specs and how your game may perform once you have it downloaded. Then again, I'm sort of eyeballing it here, for fun actually. Once you've found the perfect community for you and your ideas, you can either wait for two things. Either A, some rat decides to host a casual session allowing you to experience the most basic form of this game, or B, you wait for a season to be announced so you can sign up for it. Let's start with the casual sessions, because that is the most common thing to be hosted. Along with that, it's the easiest to join and leave, and you're really wanting to do a couple of these before you do anything big. Once you hear someone announce a casual, you are told how to sign up usually through a single press of a button. You don't have to worry about this bounding you to the casual game though. If you can't attend, that's alright, though it is common courtesy to tell someone you won't make it. Once done, and you finally join the game, you might be wondering to yourself, you made it all the way to section 5 of this video, but you literally do not understand how the game works, and now you're surrounded by all these random people, and they're talking, and they're putting on models, and some guy is a Danganronpa character you've never seen before, and someone is playing a Chihiro Fujisaki dancing like an idol, and you can't press C to choose a character model, and now everyone's looking at you because you look like Kleiner, and you're pissing your pants in fear because you look like a dunce, and you are a dunce, and you always will be a dunce because no one teaches you how to do anything in this game! But don't worry, I'm here to teach you how to play this game. Step 1. Press F3, also known as function key 3, to choose your player model. This is mostly for English servers. If you're in France or Russia, they might do something else. I don't know, I don't care. Anyway, you'll view a point shop, browse the categories, look through them all, and find a character that really speaks to you. What an amazing choice! You could have picked any character in the world, and you picked Sato Nazutame from Danganronpa croxx. Excellent. You've now selected your character, it's time to learn how the game works. There are 4 distinct sections to every session. The pre-game lobby, daily life, deadly life, and the trial and execution. There is a 5th if you count the aftermath of the execution, but in casuals, these are usually pretty short, so there's nothing to really take note of here. Right now, you're in the lobby. You're not expected to do anything here, besides picking who you want to play. You'll be given your character's name color, right here. Depending on the server, you either do this yourself, or the host does this for you. While you're here, you get to meet the colorful cast of players you are going to spend the next hour or so with. Maybe more. If you decide to go on to round 2, that is. That, or you can just tab out and do anything else while you're waiting for the actual game to start. You will be judged, but you will not be killed. You'll know when the game starts when the host, tells you to start. Or you've been tabbed out way too long when you notice you're strangely all alone now. Desolate. Here, you'll do one of these 3 things. Option A, you will roleplay. I can't really do a how-to on roleplaying, you just pretend to be whatever you want. You can pretend to be your character, or you can just act normally the entire time. Or you can pretend to be an evil scientist, I don't know, Tenko. The sky's the limit. Just, respect some social standards. The bar is really, really low, and you'll probably be murdered if you piss off people badly enough. The only thing you can't do is break the 4th wall, or talk about things you don't know as a character. Everyone else is playing a character to some degree, why can't you just fit in? Don't tell Makoto Naegi that Wilson is being an asshole unless your character thinks so. Who the hell is Wilson? Option B. You'll pick up weapons. Usually, scattered around the map you're playing on, there will be a lot of weapons meant for murder. Dun dun dun. Can you have the little squirrel turn around for me? The 2016 things. Or self-defense, because dying is really lame and sometimes you just want to protect yourself against some unsavory individuals. You can't kill anyone during daily life. Most of the time, since everyone will have God mode, invincibility in layman's terms. But this is a great chance to prepare for a scheme or catch others preparing for their schemes. Option C. You will explore the map, understanding where you are, what leads to what, and how everything is laid out is an extremely useful thing to know. The map layout is one of the most important things you can take advantage of. Either role-playing, murder, investigations, or whatnot. Or just hiding in cowardice because you know that you might get murdered because you pissed off Jerry over there, and you know what you did, and you just will not commit and, confess to it. Nobody has to hurt anyone here, you just are being a little bit. Anyways, though I said earlier not to use out-of-game knowledge for your character, the map layout in casuals is one of the few exceptions to this rule. You don't have to act bewildered after the 5th time you show up in Hope's Peak Academy, so please feel free to explore. And option D. And I didn't mention this option because I didn't feel like it. Doing absolutely nothing does nothing for you and the game itself. It is entirely possible to do nothing for like a solid 30 minutes or so on. It'll be extremely boring, you won't have fun, people will judge you and tell you about how your hair looks stupid, and not in front of your face. Actually, they will talk about you in front of your face because you're not moving and you are not listening and paying attention. This is a story-based game. Play the gosh darn game, I do not recommend doing this. I'd rather you play the game and have fun with everyone else. Don't be a poser. While doing 1, 2, or all 3, or 4 if you're being just difficult for no reason, you'll notice that there's a timer on the top of your screen and on the bottom left. The bottom left is a world clock, done in military time. There is a way to set it to AM, PM, but it just slipped my mind, oopsie daisy. While the top is usually a timer with your name set by the host to signify how long a certain section will go on for. You don't have to focus on the bottom left timer at all during the section. It's just mostly the one on top that you need to keep in mind. Because once that timer ends, you'll usually get told that it's time to meet the host of the hour, if they even show up, that is. You will probably be told to head to a certain place on the map. If you're lost, usually following someone else is the right call. They might know where to go. If worst comes to worst, you might be teleported to the meeting place. You can miss these meetings, but only if the host is pretty chill. There you'll be told, whatever, I don't know. I'm not your host. I'm just the guy telling you. It's pretty common for you to be told, hey, you're in a killing game, and here's, what's going to motivate you to kill. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's fame. Alternatively, the host might be just a disembodied voice who yells at you. If that's the case, then you don't have to worry about going anywhere. Lucky you. Got that down? Good. Whether you listen to the motive or not, once that meeting ends, the start of Deadly Life begins. This also means that you'll be no longer immune to dying, so jumping from really, really big heights will actually kill you. And while suicide is not allowed, unless used tactfully, you'll probably not want to do it anyways since you'll drop all your weapons. That, and or you might be respawned with barely any health. This might also happen to murder victims when a really lousy kill happens. Say the killer turns around and notices that 4 people were watching them hack away at Ayamu Rebirth the whole time. This is usually called avoiding a kill, or just the void. Anyways, here's when that second timer comes in useful. When watching other players, seeing what they're doing, and most importantly, when they do it helps a lot in a trial. For example, seeing Kazuichi Soda stab John Joker Persona 5 is really useful. Even when John Joker Persona 5 doesn't die, it's still something to note. Here, just like in daily life, you'll be free to do what you want. Roleplay, murder someone, try to stop someone from murdering someone else. You're completely free to do as you please, unless the motive limits something. Your actions have a lot of consequences, even as something as simple as walking around could be important. Who you hang out with, who you trust, yada yada yada. And you can still roleplay in this section too. It's not like it's outlawed. In fact, this could be a great moment for you to act stuff out. You're completely free to do as you please until you hear that body announcement sound. Of course, you can be murdered too. Very brutally. And if you are murdered during this section, we only ask for one small thing. One point of respect. Do not spoil who killed you. It is a murder mystery. Just don't reveal the mystery. That's lame. If you do it, you suck. Do not private message others about who killed you either. You stupid, moron, idiot, smelly fart face. I hate you. I'm telling Mom. You're the reason why we had to cut sessions down to literally 30 minutes because you spoiled the goddamn thing in 30 seconds! You may be asked by the host what happened. And this is for their edification on understanding the case. They're the only ones you can tell about what happened. No matter how much you dislike dying, it's a part of the game, and that's something we all have to live with. That clear? Good. Now let's go to the alternate universe where you don't die! Woo!
the little thing that like spits out like party favor, like.
Welcome to the investigation and trial phase. Here, the task is simple. Use your deductive reasoning to find out who did it, or try your best not to get caught, depending on if you did it or not, or if you want to help the killer or not as an accomplice. If you want a tutorial in being pretty good in trials, I hate to break it to you, this guide can't do anything more besides give you helpful tips. Most cases will be different from one another, unless someone saw someone commit the murder, or if everyone but the victim and one guy named Steve have an alibi. You'll have to use your own brain to solve that rabble, and question everyone's motives. The only thing we can tell you is this: you probably shouldn't be role-playing too much if you don't want to derail the trial. This doesn't mean stop role-playing altogether, since that just defeats the purpose and makes things super duper lame, but it also means do not spend the entire trial doing something extremely annoying, and if you do, you might derail someone else's testimony, and that makes things lame. It defeats the purpose of it. Again, there's a distinction to be made. A good example is when you're playing an antagonist. There is a difference between a generally antagonistic foe, who sometimes likes to throw people off, and throwing the entire trial off because you're playing Kokichi and keep telling lie after lie. 2. You probably should not outright say you did it. Innocent or not, saying I did it is usually lame. If you want to confess, there are much better ways and more creative ideas you can do. Use your head. Use that magnificent mind to spiral it into a magnificent soliloquy of the truth. If you took mental or physical notes of daily and or deadly life, even if you're guilty, you'll get to use all you know to pin the blame on someone else. Get told you're wrong or right or whatnot. Maybe soul read the other players. Try to use your own knowledge of who you're playing against to see who done it. Not everyone is interested in this phase though, and you'll see people who are great at this phase. Some people thrive during this part. Some people do, okay. And then there are some people who are interested, tab out, and they didn't see anything or figure they can't contribute. Try not to do this a lot, or at all, if you can help it. How you perform, however, is up to your own will. Of course, if you get it right, the killer dies, and if you get it wrong, it depends. Either everyone dies or someone dies in the killer's place. This is casual, so everyone will die eventually. But keep in mind that the host can freely change any aspect they desire. Some cases even allow you to vote for a specific player, not even the killer, to be executed. Though, these are seen more in actual seasons than simple casuals. Accomplices may also be voted, but that depends on the host or the case. Congratulations, Sato player! You finished the most basic version of this game mode. Did you enjoy it? Oh, you chatterbox. You sure know what to say to please the ears. Of course, this very, very basic tutorial doesn't teach you everything. In fact, when you first play, you'll probably be so out of your depth that you'll keel over and die. Or you'll stand around like a mannequin. Whatever comes first, honestly. Experience in this game is the most valuable thing you can have. It is not like Among Us that has a tutorial, probably, and that Death Note game that had a tutorial as well. Only 10 people on Steam Record have actually touched that thing. You just need to feel out this game, understand it yourself, work up the courage to be great at whatever you desire, and one day you'll shine brighter than any star in the sky on your murder trial. Of course, if you do these enough, or you've been in your respective server long enough, you might want to, take it up a notch, be on a map other than Hope's Peak Academy, get the real deal experience. Well, let me get you started. Competitive sessions. Competitive sessions are different from the simple round or two of Danganronpa GMod, in the sense that it is a full game. 5, 6, maybe even 7 chapters. Who knows how long it'll actually be? Unlike casuals, where the games usually reset or end after the execution, if someone dies, they're dead for the rest of the season. Your best friend, Kazuichi, could get sniped, and you'll have to sadly sit there as you just lost your best friend forever. It ramps up in intensity from here. Along with this, they usually have a lot more effort compared to casuals. More in-depth plot lines, a unique theme like only picking V3 characters, maybe a unique map or host character. It's entirely up to the host to decide what they do. So, how to join one of these illustrious sessions? Usually, there will be a big announcement when this happens. Something along the lines of, signups for so-and-so are open! And you'll see junk and text like this. find the channel they want you to type in, likely called signups, and notice how there's already like 1 or 2 people within milliseconds of it being announced and have already typed 3 emojis or something. These emojis are how you pick your character. Sometimes there are characters that don't have an emoji, or the character isn't in the content pack, or the character's an OC or whatnot. They'll usually sign up these characters by just typing out the name, then maybe DMing the host. Picking 3 emojis is required, usually, unless specified otherwise, but the default is 3 picks, as 2 players might both want to play the same exact character. In this case, you now have a backup character in case your first choice isn't picked, and if somehow your second choice was taken, you then have a third. It's about as simple as that, really. Yes, it is time! Select your 3 emojis and cast them into the ballot! Go on! Pick your 3 emojis! Show them your true strength! You picked Sato Nasutame, Chiaki Nanami, and Joe from Your Turn to Die. You know what? I'm proud of you for those selections. However, there may be more than 16, 18, or even 20 people who sign up for one of these sessions. The amount of people in a season, you guessed it, varies between them and depends on the host. If so many people join, it's guaranteed that a couple of players won't make it in. That's where the reserve course comes in. You see, dedicating time to this game might be a hassle, because you, the player, usually have other things in this game you have to do. University, college, work, maybe you want to play Minesweeper, if you want to be eccentric, yada yada yada. If someone in the season can't make it, then the people who couldn't get in replace them for that day. Reserving is when you show up as the person who's gone, pretend to be their said character, and dilly-dally as you see fit. It's usually a good idea to check in with the player that you're reserving for, just to see what they want, and so the character doesn't act completely different for one chapter. If you die, the player you're filling in for also dies. It may seem harsh, but the game's a game. Dying is expected. No matter what plans you have, you're always risking death with whatever you do or don't do. Danganronpa is about murder after all. Most players have accepted the fact that they have a chance of dying if a reserve course player plays them. So don't feel too beat up if you are a reserve course and you got someone killed. That's what happens with any excess players. One more thing. It's not usually first come first serve with these types of games. Casuals are a great way to tell if someone is going to be a complete doorknob in seasons. Players who are more fun or interesting to play with usually have a higher chance of getting in than players who just hurl insults at everyone and barely do a thing, though it's entirely up to the host to decide who gets in and who doesn't. I'm just the guy voicing for the guy who's writing the guide, not an all-seeing guy. As for what actually happens in these things, it varies. Very, very wildly. For some servers, it's hard to tell one season from another, while in another, every season could be vastly different from one another, in both presentation, story, and quality. This guide can't tell you how to possibly deal with these, or how to, be within them. You already probably know what to do. So just go with your gut in some things. You've been introduced to the 2 most important things in an English Danganronpa GMod server: casuals and competitive sessions. However, there are things in this simple guide that have not been covered. Things that this video will actively refuse to cover because this is the most basic guide, not an all-encompassing encyclopedia. Minigames and trials, though bare bones, allow the host to give information in trials that otherwise would be difficult to solve on your own. In fact, simple as can be Danganronpa may not be the only thing you experience. Your Turn to Die style trials have been done several times in the past, which are drastically different to the murder mystery style gameplay you might be used to. That, or the entire game can just be the host throwing puzzles at you. Or maybe you're playing Prisoner's Dilemma. Or maybe you just go out and shoot a bunch of Monokuma dolls with other people. Garry's mod is a sandbox, and sometimes, switching it up can be a bit interesting. You'll see other players creating their own characters using Pack 3, or making animations for models to spice up their experience. That, in itself, is an entire can of worms I can't get into. There is a tutorial for Pack 3. If you're interested in it, go check it out. But it doesn't teach you animations. You'll probably want to ask for help for that, if you're willing to put in the effort to make animations, that is. For the rest of the help you need, you're going to have to ask people for help, for whatever server or community you join. If you're worried, there's always going to be a player or two willing to give you the answers to your burning questions, so you don't have to worry about it on that front. And if any of this interests you, you're free to try this experience, even if it's just for a small bit, maybe one session max. It's still worth experiencing at least once if you're into Danganronpa, or just murder mystery games in general. With that in mind, play and enjoy the game. Click the link in the description to join a Discord server for this.